Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit, and we certainly have a holiday flavor. Why wouldn't we? I mean, it's December 17th, but a lot of the shows that we'll be talking about, a lot of the references we'll be talking about certainly have a holiday feel. One of the shows that Tim Finn, who of course joins us every other week for our podcast, and it's one of... I always say this because I like doing all the podcasts, but certainly talking music is one of my passions, and when I can speak with somebody as learned and with great opinions like Tim, it's always a blast. He reviewed the Wynton Marsalis concert, Christmas concert with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. We're going to talk a lot about that as well. Upcoming shows that include Amanda Fish, who is the sister of Samantha Fish, and the Rainmakers are getting back together for a show. That's always a special occasion. Lots of different things to talk about. Some 3 or 4 references to the astral plane. So you can tell it's an eclectic day, as it usually is when we talk music with Tim Finn on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday. It's presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit, and it's at you every other week with Tim Finn right here at Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent podcast, and we get after it coming up. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Tim, the holidays are here, and a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today certainly have a holiday feel, but I wanted to start out with you because I know you interviewed her one time. Watched the Kennedy Center Honors. Excellent show always, and one of the things that makes it a great show is the fact that they have the event, and then it becomes a highly edited television event, so it moves along quickly. It's not like most honor shows that can drag out and such, but a couple of the musical aspects of it were honorees Linda Ronstadt and Earth, Wind and Fire, and certainly iconic artists deserve it. The way they approach this is other people do their stuff, and they sit up there and soak up the glory, and it's always usually a very emotional thing, and it was in this particular case. Linda Ronstadt has had a widely varied career, and also recently has been more and more in the news because she can't perform anymore. There's a new documentary out about her in the last few months as well. So she certainly has been in the forefront of the news because of that, and has allowed people to start to do some retrospective views of her. She's a very important artist and a powerful presence as a woman who, in a man's world, carved her own niche.
Mm-hmm. Yes, one of the greatest singers of my lifetime, by far, I think, and I think she's maybe a little underappreciated for that. But you listen to her, like her first 3 or 4 records. It's just a stunning vocalist, and every once in a while I'll go down some YouTube rabbit hole and just watch old videos of her because, of course, she's super good looking. There's videos of her singing with Johnny Cash. It's just the stardom in those videos is blinding, and just one of the greatest singers of her time. I interviewed her. She came here in 2009 to the Midland. She was doing this. It was all in Spanish. The entire show was in Spanish. She was, really digging into her roots and her heritage, and you could tell then. In fact, that was the second to last show she ever performed live. And she told her people after that show. I know someone who has been part of her management that she said, "I'm going to do this the next show," and I think it was in Chicago. And she said, "No, I can't do it." She knew that she was, faltering and wasn't the singer she used to be. So we saw one of her final shows, and it was still good, by all means. But I interviewed her, and we talked a lot about music education and the arts and education, how important that was to her and how important it is. And she had a lot of thoughtful things to say about it. It was a really memorable interview, and she was so eloquent, so gracious, so kind, and really, really thoughtful.
They highlighted it in the film tribute they did to her, video tribute, whatever you would call it, which they do for all the artists or whoever they're honoring. They're not all artists or musicians necessarily, but she did come up at a time and noted that it was tough for a woman to be a lead act in the 70s as far as that, and you had to kind of fight.
Right, and it's still not easy because on the radio show I do, we have women on regularly, and I always ask them that, like, is it better? Is it good? And they'll say, it's getting better, but it's not great. You are still, marginalized. Sound guys tend to treat you like you don't know anything. The respect isn't there like it is for men. So it's still a battle, but yeah, for her back then it was really tough.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And she did, in that time when performing, starting to have videos, things like that were important. It almost seemed like she was doing some things that she was a little uncomfortable with, but more probably wanted to focus on the music. And she would make changes in her career and sing classics and go on Broadway and do things like that. So it was about the music to her, maybe not to the marketing, but I think she probably knew you got to do it.
Right. And I guess I don't remember her doing anything that I thought was like really out of bounds or looked uncomfortable. There was a Rolling Stone cover where she was lying on a bed in like some like negligee nightwear thing that was a little racy, I guess.
Right.
But that's about as extreme as I can remember.
Yeah, I think the maybe the one iconic image that is a little goofy but still was cool to us then was her hot pants and roller skates.
with long socks. Yeah.
Yeah, no question about that.
But yeah, showing up her legs.
Yes, indeed. And Earth, Wind, and Fire was regaled as well, and we've talked a lot about them recently. They were here. They still put on fabulous shows, even though they've lost a lot of their members. The 3 founding members who were there at the event really enjoyed it. John Legend did some of their stuff, and it was, you almost can't miss. It's infectious. I was reminded, however, of some of the astral plane aspects of their music, which I do find a bit goofy of their repertoire, but still the music is good.
Right, they're fabulous. And I think to a point maybe a little underappreciated because they put out so many great records and so many great songs, and they their music translated so well live. They are a great live band now, and they were then when they had all the original members. I've never seen them with all the original members, but still, whoever fills in is
Right.
world class, and they're I try not to miss them when they come to town. They're that good.
Yeah, they are that good. If you haven't seen them, don't think they're too old, or you're not going to have a great time. You are going to have a great time. And they still tour a lot.
You'll probably be surprised by how many songs you know of theirs. Cause,
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can think of September and a few of the other super big hits, but they're one of these bands that they probably have to do a medley at some point because they've got so many familiar songs.
Right.
No question about that. Well, you saw one of the Christmas shows recently and did a review of it in Kansas City Magazine, which is one of your homes, and as you mentioned, a radio show on 90.9 The Bridge with John Hart, Thursdays at 4 o'clock. And Wynton Marsalis and Jazz at Lincoln Center. I was rewatching one of the first episode of the country music documentary last night, and he was on that, actually talking about some of the roots of music. He just comes across, and I have never talked to him, obviously. Well, not obviously. I could have talked to him, but I've never spoken with him. He just comes across as the most genuinely nice person and ambassador of music, and I think that was reflected in this particular show because you mentioned in your review that he was just part of the ensemble. I mean, he talked about the songs, but that was about the only band leader aspect of the night.
Right, and he took a few solos, but not many. He was just sitting in the back row in the middle with a trumpet section, and he was wearing a Santa Claus hat, but other than that, you wouldn't have known he was there, except for the times he would introduce a song or introduce the soloist or in the band members. So he was very came up as really gracious and humble and kind of soft-spoken, really appealing.
One of the things that, I think that jazz brings so much to the fore is that, you look at the set list for this particular show, and it's almost like, really? Jingle bells?
Yeah.
Tell It on the Mountain? We think, well, huh? I mean, but...
It's where they take it.
You can turn any, like Silent Night was like an upbeat number.
Yes.
The variety that you can get in jazz arrangements is just remarkable and can turn any tune on its head a little bit.
Right. And that was kind of the appeal of the show was knowing the song they're playing, hearing their version of it, their arrangement of it, and then in mid that trying to recognize the version well. Like you could hear what they did to Jingle Bells, because you could sense the the version everyone knows, and then you could almost measure where they'd taken it, and how they changed the meter and the rhythm and all that. It was fun.
And they had two fine vocalists, apparently.
Yes, two. The young woman was, I think, had just turned 18. Had an amazing voice. Like she had the voice of an old soul. I think that's how he described her. He said, "You're not going to believe she's 18." She was great, and the male singer was really good too. Yeah.
And do you ever go into these type of things with a bit of trepidation for Christmas music? I mean, because it can be real standardized and saccharine.
Right. Well, by the numbers, but I'd read about this, so I kind of knew what I was going to see, and it was a little challenge to write about it because I'm not a jazz aficionado. So I'm seeing it probably from the perspective that most people there were seeing it from, which was here's what they did to this song, and without getting into any theory or anything like that. But it was a good time. It was brief, but that was fine because by the time it was over, I was kind of ready for it to be over.
One thing about, I think, jazz and Christmas music is that I think it provides an entree to jazz for people who, and there may be no greater example of that than Charlie Brown's Christmas,
right?
Which the music is just iconic, and it is pure jazz,
right?
And I actually at the Folly Theater several years ago now, I saw the person who did the piano playing for the movie when it came out most recently. I think about 5 or 6 years ago,
right.
And he was outstanding. He wasn't Vince Guaraldi, but and it does provide an entree for people to the world of jazz.
Yeah, for sure. That record is iconic. The Charlie Brown Christmas, and I have another one of his albums, and yeah, it's because there are like new age pianists like George Winston, which isn't really jazz; it's jazz-ish, but Guaraldi takes it to another place. But it's sort of that flavor, but a lot more jazzy, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I own a couple of his records, and I don't buy a lot of jazz.
And just talk a little bit about that. I mean, I think what's remarkable to me is how people are so dedicated to jazz, and that jazz continues to abide and thrive. And, people don't necessarily get rich playing jazz, but they don't seem to, some do, but they don't seem to care.
Right. See, Kansas City has a really bustling jazz scene right now. We've talked about this before. And yes, there are a lot of devoted jazz fans in this town. They end up having to go to, small clubs and small venues most of the time, but it's fine. And there's jazz like every night of the week, pretty much. And it is because the people who, I don't think they're like fair weather jazz fans. I think you either absolutely love it or you have no interest in it. Because it is you have to be more involved as a fan. You have to really pay attention to the music.
Right.
Because that's where the thrill comes from. It's like watching these world-class musicians do world-class feats with their instruments. And so it requires a little more involvement. And so I think that's one of the barriers, maybe. Plus, it's typically instrumental.
It's not. There's not songs generally.
Well, I mean, if you have the jazz singers,
right,
obviously, but
I think most, for instance, I really am an aficionado of big band jazz. I really love it, and I don't much like the vocals.
Oh, okay.
When I want to watch big band music, I want to see Gene Krupa play the drums. I don't really care if somebody's singing. When I see Glenn Miller, I don't want to hear Tex Beneke sing. I want to see him play play his instrument. So, right. And I think maybe a lot of jazz people fall into that category too.
Yeah.
Although great jazz vocalists are good too. But,
absolutely, yeah.
But big band music often featured sort of more novelty tunes that would become the ones that maybe were a little famous when actually there's serious, fantastic musicianship that was played by those orchestras and bands.
Right, and there's from what I can tell, there's enough of that coming through town to keep the real aficionados happy. I have a friend who writes a blog about jazz in Kansas City, and he'll go to shows 3 or 4 nights a week, and a lot of them are just really kind of small clubs or performance spaces, and a lot of it's very progressive or hardcore,
avant-garde.
Yeah, sure. And so there's still an audience for it here. It's just not, it's not huge. And
the one period, we only had one real period, I think, in our lifetimes when there was sort of crossover mainstream stuff where you would get people who actually had hits on the radio,
right.
And stuff like that. That doesn't tend to happen ever anymore.
No, and there were some. I mean, I remember like Chuck Mangione,
right?
David Sanborn,
absolutely.
George Benson.
Yep.
A lot of those guys.
Yeah, and they were selling records, lots of them. Yep, and they're still around, but they're you just remember them for being great players. I mean, David Sanborn is on so many iconic albums from the 70s and 80s and all kinds of absolutely fantastic things, and has a signature sound. So
well, George Benson was just here because I interviewed him. It's been within the last 3 years or so, but and the show did really well. But he's one of those guys,
right?
Who's going to get the mainstream crowd.
I think one thing that creates that longevity is we don't realize at times how young the person was when they became famous. So you're like, well, that person's still,
right.
Well, he's only 62, yeah. Because he was 23 when he
right.
became famous.
Right.
That happens a lot, no question about that. A whole bunch of shows for your holiday delight to talk about after our time out. Of course, we're speaking with Tim Finn. It's Arts and Lifestyles Wednesday, brought to you by the Exit Room of Lee Summit on the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast, and we will get back to rolling coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Tim, there's so many shows that your other shows to know about, which is at the bottom of your In Kansas City thing, are usually shows off in the distance. But
right.
There's quite a few that are coming up right now. But a show that on the 27th at Knuckleheads, the Rainmakers get together, and they don't often. I was on their website the other day, and it had upcoming shows, and there were two.
Right. Uh-huh.
Period. In honor of that, I guess, not in honor of it, but I thought it was a timely way. This Friday I'll have revisit and repurpose the interview I did with Bob Walkenhorst earlier this year. And it kind of has become sort of a special event when the Rainmakers get back together.
Right, yeah, they do it a few times a year. They just went to Norway for the last time. Like they got big over there when they were first out. You know, their first record went bonkers over there for some reason. And they've been going back there regularly, but they just made their last trip. And concurrently, Bob put out a book of lyrics that he published, and Stephen King was a big Rainmakers fan, so I think he has a foreword in the book. So it was a big year for them. There'll be a Knuckleheads. It'll be packed, but also the night before, he and his daughter Una are going to perform there. They put out a really, really nice record last year. That was one of my favorites, and she's a really good songwriter and a really good singer. So go to both, or if you can't go to one go to the other.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about that and how she's a different kind of musician, has allowed him to branch out a little bit, and a very interesting conversation that's coming up Friday here on Kansas City Profiles. If you missed it earlier this year, Amanda Fish is in town. That's always something to enjoy. She'll be at Knuckleheads on Friday.
So Samantha Fish is also in town next week.
Amanda Fish.
Amanda's her sister. Yeah,
Yes,
no, that's her
Amanda.
sister. Yeah, but no, she's put out a really, really good record last year that won an award, a pretty decent award this year. The album's called Free, but she's got she can sing every bit as good, maybe better than her sister. Really, really captivating voice and expressive, and she writes really good songs. So by all means, if you haven't seen her, check her out. She's at Knuckleheads on the 19th.
19th, which is, of course, Friday. And there's some diverse, unusual, and, things that are heartfelt because they're for good causes, all in the mix. But just by the photo on the website and in Kansas City Magazine, the Piano Guys, looks like it's a sort of a rollicking time at the theater. They're at the Ardvest Bank Theater at the Midland. Tell me about the Piano Guys.
Well, I didn't know about them until the show came up, so I did some research. There's a pianist and a cellist, and then there's a vocalist, and then apparently there's a pretty substantial video component of the shows, a lot of visuals, and their YouTube videos have gone bonkers, like millions and millions of views. So, and they do some stunts. It sounds like one, according to one review, there's a song they perform, the piano player's upside down, like the piano's upside down, if I read that correctly. So there are some stunts. It sounds like it's just a real kind of joyful, madcap, kind of really manic.
Do we have any idea what kind of music it is?
Well, what they do is they take classical music and pop music and they sort of put their own take on it. It's like Michael Jackson, and they do Wagner or whatever. It's like kind of all over the place, but they give it their own spin, I guess.
And tomorrow night at Record Bar, Fritz Hutchison Band, Calvin Arsenia, the Black Creatures. This is called Cocktails and Candy Canes. Nice title. I like that. How about this show?
Yeah, so that's being sponsored by Center Cut Records, which is a local label that started, I guess, last year. And run by two guys who were high school buddies and big music fans. One of them is Jim Andrews of Andrews McNeil Publishing. They do all that. So he's an investor in it, and his friend Patrick Spray is the other guy. And Calvin Arsenia was the first artist they signed. He's put out 2 records with them, 2 fabulous records. And then they signed Fritz late this year, and he's got a record that will come out in the spring, they think. I'm still figuring that out. But so Calvin's as unique as they get. He plays harp. He sings like an opera star. He's like 6'7", just lots of charisma and magnetism, and really commanding performer. Fritz writes more kind of like indie, poppy, folk, really melodic stuff with really smart lyrics. So he's a really gifted songwriter. He's in a bunch of other bands, including the Grizzly Hand. He plays bass in that band. So he's really talented, very multi-instrumental, and he's a fabulous drummer too. He studied jazz drumming, and so he's a guy that a lot of people go to when they need either someone to fill in or to join another band. He'll probably have to cut back on some of that because he's going to go full steam ahead on his solo career. But yeah, really good. And then the Black Creatures, I've not seen them, but I've heard about them, and like I said in this piece, they call themselves a dark pop, hip hop musical duo from Kansas City, pulling elements from sci-fi to tell an interdimensional story. So that it's really, I think it's really funky and dancey. Is the impression I get.
Well, we have some of that in night 1 of the Night the Buzz Stole Christmas. They have a 2-night holiday mini fest, and of course the Buzz, KRBZ, is the sponsor of that. And Angels and Airwaves will be headlining that particular show, but there's a lot of variety there. But apparently the person who's one of the driving forces of that is an avowed UFO believer.
Right, like way far out believer, yes. Which is, yeah, I guess, whatever. He's involved in a lot of those groups that explore and study and come up with all kinds of theories about why they're definitely out there, and which is fine. I mean, and their music is a little spacey, I guess. Not as like power pop punk as it used to be, because he was in Blink-182 for a while,
Right?
And yeah, it's very dynamic. They're for a 3-piece, they're a really dynamic live band.
Also on the bill is a Bad Flower. That's a hard rock band from L.A., Search and Seizure, and they're an amalgam of guys from different Kansas City bands. So
right,
a lot of variety there.
Yeah, one of them was in Redline Chemistry, which was a band, hard rock band that really one of those many bands that looked like they were going to move to the next level, and they were playing Rockfest, and they just didn't get there in time, and people started to get married and have kids, and the band just sort of dissolved, sadly. But so yeah, one of their former members is in this band.
And the next night, day 2, the Cold War Kids will headline the second day. I've heard of the Cold War Kids just because when you hear the band's name, you don't kind of forget it, but I don't know anything about them. So tell me about that.
Yeah, they're really, I guess it's like rock and soul and blues, heavy on the piano. The lead singer's pretty dynamic. I don't really know who to compare them to, except if you can think of any rock band that is really infused with, maybe a little bit of like up-tempo Van Morrison, but they're really, they're very groovy and they rock. It's really invigorating music. I think they started to fall into this repetitive thing, and as I was reading reviews of their records, a lot of the complaints was, well, this is good, but they've already done this. So apparently they have a new record out that's goes in a different direction, I guess.
Well, it's sometimes good, sometimes
right.
not. She Wants Revenge is another band on that, and Gothic and Gloomy is part of the description, like Joy Division. I mean, they have a very successful band, and The Bravery. So
they're dancey,
a lot of influences
gothy.
there,
Yeah, they're fun.
Yep. And Lovely the Band, Lovely...
All one word.
Lovely the Band. Nice title for a group, I guess. But does their music, is it lovely? I don't know.
It's poppy. Yeah, it's catchy. It's
so the band name fits.
Very accessible.
Fits the music.
Yeah. They had that one song that, God, this has like 140 million hits on Spotify, and it's only been, I think they released it last year. But and that song just took off, and then labels got interested, and here they are,
right,
trying to make it.
And you note that people shouldn't. There's 4 acts on there, and they shouldn't get there late and arrive at 6:30, so you can see Burwanger, Kansas City power pop band. And whenever I see power pop, it perks my ears up a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's really poppy. Josh is a really good songwriter. He's a real Dwight Twilley fan. If you know his music, there's some resemblance there, but it's short, punchy, poppy music. Yeah, like get in and out in 2.5, 3 minutes.
I know that I once had a Dwight Twilley cassette, so I don't know if I could summon up a song right now off the top of my head, but an era of cassette certainly there. What's interesting to me is that Lovely the Band, they can have a single that 132 million streams, and yet fame can be just so fleeting now. I mean, usually if you have a record that 132 million people have some access to in some way, you're not in the middle of a four band setup.
Right. Well, I think they only have one record out.
Right.
And I mean, the streaming numbers, I don't know, maybe they have 132 fans who, or there's some bots
true.
involved.
Yes.
I don't know, but that seems
don't
like
tell the little secrets, like how many downloads I have.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's impressive no matter what the story is. And,
absolutely. Well, I think people should sort of soak up these shows right now, because I guess we're looking at kind of a little bit barren January, huh?
Right. It's slow. Typically every year, right after New Year's, it slows down a bit. Although George Strait is coming in January to the Sprint Center for 2 nights, so that'll be huge. But
I imagine you'll be there for that.
Going to try to go to both for sure. He's one of my favorite live performers.
Yeah,
and,
I know you like him. And, he's hasn't he sort of semi-retired a couple of times, or sort of? Or
no, the last time he was here, he said he was basically what he was going to do is only do like residencies, or maybe do shows. He didn't want to be on the road anymore,
right.
So he said. I think now he's just doing weekends,
right.
So he's not doing 130 shows in 6 months. He's toned down. He's probably half retired, but
right.
Obviously he misses it because he made it sound like definitive, like the Kansas City is the last time I'm going to be here. And
well, when it's a good whether it's purposeful or not, it's a good marketing vehicle because people always will figure, well, I better go see him because I may not get to see him again.
And those 2 shows sold out in like half a minute. So.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Cher's done it. Like I said,
right.
I've seen all 5 of her farewell shows, and they're all really good.
Yeah. Well, Tim, always a pleasure, and enjoy the holiday, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Danny.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
Tim Finn.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
the Exit Room of Lee's Summit. Come with friends, family, colleagues, or a team to tackle the challenges of this unique escape room.